I had a completely full day off yesterday, leaving Hearts standard in Joel's capable hands as he was eased back into action with the first pre-season friendly of 2025-26. Before I quiz Joel on what takeaways we can take from that draw with St Mirren, I will check in with that man himself. He is the editor of Hearts Standard. It is Joel Sked. Joel, has there been anything else that I've missed in the last 24 hours?
No, it's been quite quiet. Everything was pretty much straightforward. Nice to be friendly. Nothing else major happened. Not nothing to do with Shankland. Not to transfer targets that have emerged. Yeah.
We were originally going to do this video. Sorry to keep everybody waiting. Thanks to everybody who's still here. We were originally planning this video for 4:10. And as I sometimes do, I thought, right, I'll round it up to the next quarter of an hour just to give us that wee 5 minutes of grace. And boy, did we need more than 5 minutes of grace, because in the countdown to that, we got wind at the announcement that Lawrence Shankland was returning to the club, ending what we were starting to call a saga. But I think we were discussing this morning, I think if there wasn't so much reporting on it, it probably wouldn't have felt that dragged out. But we are glad that has come to an end. Once we will discuss that just after we have said that Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. Joel's getting on it. It's been a long day.
Just Sprite Zero.
Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to S1 Jobs and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. I will be hoping that Fanta and Sprite Zero will also be in touch for a wee sponsorship soon, given the name dropping you've been giving them over the last couple of days, Joe. Firstly, hear what everybody's here to hear, and what we're here to talk about mainly is the return of Lawrence Shankland. What are your initial thoughts on the news?
Yes, just before we do, I'll just reiterate apologies for people. I'm just reading the comments. I've seen someone say, Alistair Clark say, "Is this the latest the boys has ever been?" Yes, it has been, but there's reason behind that, and there's just a lot happened over the last hour, so we've kind of had to put a pin in things. But it's worth the wait because, like you said, Shankland has signed a new deal. Delighted that he's staying, and delighted this is over and it's finally been put to bed. Delighted because I'll have something, hopefully I'll either put out tonight or tomorrow. Been writing something up about Shankland, and it was one that I wrote up, and it could use if he left, it could use if he stayed, but I was just looking at just how much of an impact he has had at Hearts, and you look at what he's done over the 3 seasons, and see if you flipped this season. If you flip the seasons round, and his third one was his first, and his first was his last, and everyone would be like, got to do anything he can to keep him. Happy to wait a wee bit longer. But I just think he is a player worth waiting for, a player worth fighting for. You've gone so long without getting a guy who can score 20 goals a season, and when he comes along, someone you don't want to give up easily and give up without a fight. And you just have to listen to Derek McInnes. As soon as he came in, it was clear that Lawrence Shankland was his number one priority. That was who he wanted to stay. He said, his quotes on Tuesday was, he's made the board aware of that's his priority. And the board, McInnes, everyone has delivered. It's finally came to an end point, and I don't think you can underestimate the role that McInnes has played in. I think someone asked me on Twitter last night or this morning, asked about the role McInnes played. I would say if it wasn't for the change of manager, I don't think Lawrence Shankland would be a Hearts player, and that's what makes me even more excited that McInnes is so desperate to work with him and believes that he can help him get back to that real goal-scoring form, and also back into the Scotland side and potentially World Cup at the end of the season. But at the moment, it's about Hearts, and if that happens at the end of the season, it means he's had a successful season for Hearts, and we've seen it over the last few seasons that when Shankland's had a successful season, Hearts have been good, and when he didn't have a successful goal-scoring season, there was a big drop-off. What I think will be key next season is, I would like to think that there won't be as much responsibility on Shankland. It'll free him up to be more of himself, and the fact that McInnes will play to his strengths and there won't be an expectation on him dropping into the halfway line. He'll be like the focal point, and I just think him coming back, when you do the squad graph, and once there's been a few more outgoings, and we'll do the squad graph, the squad looks a lot better with Lawrence Shankland in there.
Yes, it definitely, for those who kind of maybe turning their nose up at it, and I think again from I've kind of written this line a few times recently. It feels, but feels like it's from outside the club more than inside the club that you like supporters, non-Heart supporters than from Heart supporters, but from those kind of turning their nose up at it, it's kind of who else would you go out and say, okay, he's going to get you a certain level of goals, or who else can you kind of go out and say, like, okay, who's within Hearts' reach? Say that's something you can guarantee to build your attack around. That it's kind of like what Derek McInnes was saying, like almost talking about not looking for a like for like and having to build a attack in a different sort of image without Shankland. Basically, I have, just to kind of give you an idea of how much this story has ebbed and flowed, I've dug right back into our archives to find this clip. We still don't know, but as you were saying there, Joe, you're kind of leaning towards a bit more now that he's probably going to not be a Hearts player next season now.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's it's certainly looking a lot like that.
I am not sure why there was delay on that. That clip was fine earlier when I edited it. But yes, that was yesterday for those who are just listening. And I suppose
wasn't it? I'm trying to get my days remixed. Wasn't it Tuesday?
Oh yeah, it was.
It was Tuesday. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I messed up the gag. Oh well. Yeah, I just like completely switched off yesterday, and I even said that earlier to give you an idea. Like I wrote a script earlier and I had to completely rewrite it, so that's why I'll be all over the place with that. But yes, 2 days ago, I've clearly forgotten that I had a day off yesterday, but it just gives you an idea of how much this is. Maybe not so much how much has ebbed and flowed. Because going by the quotes that have come out today, it seems to be that everybody's been comfortable with what's been going on. It just seems to be a lot of things have been thrown about. Whereas, I don't know. Shankland used the word honesty. He said it was the thing that kept it going. Both parties were kind of upfront about their situations ongoing in the discussions.
Yeah, and it's a process that goes through. I'm not privy to the details, but I mean, I can understand why it's taken a while. They want to explore all options. Again, he's at an age where you want to see what's out there for him. Like there's certainly, I think it's been reported, there's an offer from Turkey. I believe it was a very, very good offer, but it's like a kind of, he also has to look at the family decision as well. I don't think he wanted to uproot and go move to Turkey. And I do think that he wanted speaking to McInnes, he wanted to come back to Hearts, and it's something where I think he feels comfortable there. The squad, he's really popular from the squad. I talked about it last night about his impact, and was it last? Did I speak about it last night? It's all going into one, but basically, I don't think you can underestimate his leadership within the squad and how much he is valued within the squad, both on and off the pitch, with members. And I'll bring up a thing I've favourite here, where William Sterling says, "I would take the captaincy away and give it back to Craigie." Great news. Yes, great news. I think Lawrence Shankland will remain Hearts captain. I really do, but we'll probably get more clarity on that on tomorrow. But I really think he is such an important and integral member both on and off the pitch. And yeah, it's been worth waiting for. How do you feel about it? Are you delighted?
Aye, definitely. I don't see who else should go out, and you'd be bringing in one or two other players and you're hoping for a ton of new signings to hit the ground running. You're hoping for Wilson to kick on. There just seems to be a lot less pressure on it. And then related to that, what you've kind of already said there is it's not going to be a repeat of last season where Hearts went into the season really thin up front. And I think looking at it now, if you were listing the forwards, this can maybe lead into what our next discussion is going to be about St Mirren and the pre-season friendly against St Mirren. But you look at the strikers and Kabangu, Wilson and Braga, you'd feel are stick-ons for going into next season, in the squad going into the next season. Unless Wilson's sold or something along those lines. Obviously, there's like something like that could happen. And then maybe Musa and Vargas have maybe got a chance. Musa, I'm saying that because we didn't really see much of him over that game. And Vargas because he isn't back yet and he's still to like get involved and all that kind of stuff. But you'd expect there'd be another player coming in there that a different option that McInnes would want, saying going by him saying him wanting 4 or 5 options. With Shankland not in among that list, you're then like I said, you're putting a bit more pressure on that new signing that comes in, or maybe it's two new forwards that are coming in, and Kabangu has still got to. I'm not saying he has to hit the ground running, but he did when he first came in, and then he kind of fell out of form towards the end of the season. So. He's got a bit to prove. Wilson's still learning. He's still got deficiencies to his game that you feel like he will improve given time. So yeah, it feels like there's somebody to build the attack around there, and there's somebody with experience, and he's somebody that defenders aren't going to want to play against as well. And yeah, I think all round it's Hearts wouldn't have been able to go out and get a like for like, so I'm absolutely delighted. And I think too much has probably been read into last season, his performance last season. I think it was a perfect storm. Yeah,
I did. And what say, I agree with you in that you don't have to go out and replace him, and he's like the perfect guy to build around. And you kind of alluded to it there when like the team sheet comes on, like opposition teams will look at it and go like, Shankland's a like pain in the arse to play against. Last season as well, it was his worst. It was out of the 3. It was obviously his worst season. I still thought he was one of the Hearts' better players. That's not saying much because Hearts didn't have a good season, but he still had 20 goal contributions, 9 goals, 11 assists, and he was still contributing. It just wasn't as consistent or as big a goal scoring season as you'd expect, but.
And without going into the geeky stats too much, there was chances that he was laying on a plate for teammates that weren't being taken as well. I know you had his flaws with like he started to take shots from everywhere at the start of the season, and it was getting in his head and all that kind of stuff. But there was times where he was setting up opponents and they weren't doing the business as well, and there was nobody stepping up when he wasn't scoring. I mean, I'm kind of going over old ground a wee bit here now.
Yeah, but no, I think it's really exciting. I think all Hearts fans should be really excited. Not just the fact that this player has remained, but what he can potentially do under Derek McInnes next season. And also, you look at potential guys making the next step. Talked about it with James also. It's looked really lively this week, and then Kabangu hopefully gets back to that. You never know what Braga is, and then you mentioned other guys, and you still look at it, and if they bring someone else in, which I wouldn't bet against. Like, wouldn't be surprised if there was another forward that came in. You'd obviously look at a couple of them being potentially moved on, and they've got wingers as well, which we'll come on to talk about. But before we move on, just before we move on from Shankland, there's just a few tweets I favoured. What was the script for the banana? Jesus Thief asks when in the announcement video. I'm not sure. I've not had a chance to really look at it and get any context around it. So if anyone knows, then put it in the comments and we'll be able to answer it. Nicola Laurie asks, are Hearts training tonight? I believe I'd imagine they are. They're probably training already. The way it's gone this week is they've tended to do one training session in the morning, some gym work in the afternoon, and then a training session at night. I think they actually had this morning off after the game last night, but I believe they'll be training tonight ahead of the game tomorrow night. Scott Rennick says, check the stats, London Hearts. Hopefully Shankland can go from his current total 68 goals. He's ranked 25th in the all-time goal charts and pushed the 100 over the next 2 seasons. Like, the reason I favoured this think it's important to kind of talk about is that him staying, there's certainly debate. I know some people class him as a legend from what he's done over the last 3 seasons, but this new deal allows him to really try and take that step and just go from being such a good player, in my eyes, one of, if not the best player for Hearts of this century, to being a genuine legend, where there's absolutely no doubt about it if he can get back to that goal scoring form, and hopefully, as Derek McInnes mentioned, help the team to get some silverware. And Alan Young asked, so excited he has signed for the long term. Do you think he'll play as a dead heat striker? I do. He'll play, if he plays, he'll play as part of a front two.
Yeah, I mean, he might be support striker to somebody, but I definitely think, yes, he will be striker. I don't think we'll see him as a midfielder again. Should we move on to talk about the 2 players that have been linked? Another reason why we were delayed coming on. One of them broke earlier in the day. We will start with that. I am going to try quickly to bring up yes, there we go. I need to get rid of the media asset now. Hearts have been linked with Albanian winger Sabah Kerjota. Going to have a stab in the dark. We've not had...
Sounds good.
We've not had a chance to really dig into these too much. You wrote about this earlier, Joel, so I will defer to you in a second. But I did watch the compilation video that Heart Standard put out on Twitter. And I have to say, my first instinct was that he looked fairly similar in style to Chesnikov.
Yes, so it was Tom Irving that did the video, and that's what I took from it. I asked someone who knows a bit more about him. Basically, what did I say, just to get a wee bit more information? I was like, watch some clips, and I basically said he looks exciting, direct, and poses a goal threat cutting onto his left, and that was basically him to a T. He has he's really good in 1v1 situations, and I think this is where Jamestown people look at it and look at, it's a 4-year deal. This is Jamestown at its finest, highest, and looking at these players who they feel are playing in a level that's way below them, and they believe that with time he can really come at Hearts, and provided he is given that wee bit of time to adapt to league, etc., really be a big asset for the team. And in the final third, I think he speaks pretty good English as well, and that's something that I've noticed being up at the training camp the last 2 days, that Kiridis and Braga's English is excellent, Kiridis' English is pretty good, and I think it's getting better and better, that because they can speak English so well, they've integrated really quickly and already seem quite popular as well. So I think that's important. People will look at the Italian 4th tier. He's now in the 3rd tier because he had a really good season last season. But there is that's what Jamestown is, trying to find these gems where people maybe don't look or don't think that there's enough there. And if Hearts could do it and bring them in and give him a platform, then who knows what he can be. But yeah, he does seem like a really exciting player. The sport director of the club, I can't remember, I'll butcher the name of the club, but they talked about it being advanced stages. But there's definitely been talks, and he's a transfer target.
Sam Benedetzi, something like that.
Sam Benedetzi, yeah.
Yes. And the transfer, the transfer target, or that did delay us coming on, is from Burkina Faso. Again, I'm just trying to bring up his name is Pierre Landry Kabore from Burkina Faso International. And he is most recently been playing in Estonia, Joe.
Yes, he has. He's straight away. This is one where you're like, this is really exciting, because you just look at his goal record and I had up. It's just very funny, because he's playing in the Estonian top flight and has been since moving from Ivory Coast. And they play a summer season, so he's halfway through the season. He's contracted until the end of the year, but he's got an option for another year. He has In the league, he scored 12 goals in 15 games. In the cup, he has scored 10 goals in 5 games. So 22 goals in 20 games. 3 hat-tricks, I think. 4 hat-tricks, one of which was a 4, scored 4 goals. He's a Burkina Faso international as well. So there's a wee bit of kind of decent enough pedigree there. But again, you could compare it to what Union Saint-Gilloise, I think it was Promise David. Is that the guy that they picked up from? I think it was maybe Latvia. Sorry, I should have really looked at this before spouting it. But that's one of the big things they did was they brought in Promise David, Canadian international, and they brought him in from Estonian as well. He played in the Estonian league. So
okay.
It's a market that Jamestown are very aware of. And it's not just like this season as a one-off. Last season, he scored 11 goals in 29 games, 5 assists as well in the Estonian top flight. So it's not as if it's like a one season wonder. He's probably someone you can put in the same category as Uchenna Gundu, the Nigerian forward that Hearts are interested in. He signed for Elanyaspor. I think he signed the other day. But yeah, definitely the Pierre Landry Kabore is just looking at numbers, an exciting type. Can play across the front three. I think he will add pace and width and physicality to the team. That's something that Derek McInnes it's talked about as being a priority. Tom Irving messaged me earlier on because we obviously get him to do a deeper scout report, and he says he's the pacey forward we are searching for. He's going to put off a goal and assist video shortly, and he's big up on him. That's all I would say is that he's very much stands out in Estonia. So he's another one that's quite Jamestowny and ticks a lot of boxes. So yeah, two exciting transfer targets to get our teeth into. And you want wingers, we'll give you all the wingers in the world, and I'll take them.
Yeah, although I heard somebody say that recently, like loads of wingers, and I was thinking, the Hearts have only actually signed one, and they didn't really have many to speak of last season that were a success. And I think the players who were best in wide positions last season, I don't think were wingers. So yes, there's not an abundance of wingers yet, but there's certainly an abundance being targeted, and they definitely want to have a few more than they currently do, or at least one more than they currently do. Anyway, let's move on to the final thing. Oh, sorry, on you go.
No. Just I was going to say I absolutely agree that's why Hearts have been trying to bring in so many like Kieridas, Cheslikov, the Albanian boy Kabore, is because McInnes is wanting more options in the wide areas, whereas like last season, like you said, we don't have any out and out wide, not many options in terms of actual wingers.
Let's go on to talk about the final thing that we are here to talk about this afternoon, and that is the 1-1 draw with St Mirren, less so the results and more the teams that we saw in action. It was the first pre-season friendly. Really not much it was behind closed doors, not really much to be read into it. Into the score, I mean, sorry. Joel was there over in Spain. Benny Beningame got the only goal of the game with a deflected effort. I think the first thing I wanted to ask you about, Joe, was you spoke to Xander Clark after the game. What was he like? And more importantly, what's his fitness like going into the new season? Because there's still a few question marks around the goalkeeper position.
Fitness is good at the moment. I think he's been training, doing the full training. Him and Ryan Fulton and Harry Stone as well. I've been doing full training. In terms of the game, he didn't have a lot to do. He was helpless with the goal just because Evan Mooney was cut in and had a really good shot. Brilliant effort that beat him, and so they couldn't point it for any fingers. He had one shaky moment where I think he got the ball at his feet and he went to play a pass, and then I think he hesitated and he ended up taking a touch, and it almost put him in trouble. But the St Mirren boy ran away from him, and then he was able to kick it up. But that was the only real shaky moment, and I think everything else was pretty solid. Seen him the day before in training, and he was in the small-sided games, so like a lot of the shots were from close in, coming through bodies. He was excellent. You could hear the players, even on different teams within the small-sided games, praising him because of how strong and solid he was.
And I will bring up the first half. So there were two different shapes, two different lineups for the first and the second half. There was 10 changes at halftime. I think there was a further 2 changes in the second half. I'm just going to show you the graphics for the first half, how the first half and second half started. Here we are with the first half. Sander Clark in goals, as we said, it was a back 3. Maybe slightly surprisingly, I don't think Derek McInnes was going to be averse to playing a back 3 at Hearts, but I suppose I was slightly surprised to see that the first thing out the blocks, and it was Steinbender, Halkett, and Finlay. Halkett had the captain's armband. The wing backs were Sander Khartoum and James Penrice. In the centre of the pitch, it was Benny Beningame and Cammy Devlin with Blair Spittle just ahead. And then up front, there was James Wilson and Elton Kibangu. First thing that sticks out for me here, Joe, is Sander Khartoum, wing back. I don't think this is something we will see a lot from Sander Khartoum this season. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I think it's something that we could very well see from Derek McInnes if he plays a back 3. It's something that he's done at both Kilmarnock and Aberdeen with players like Matty Kennedy, most recently with Fraser Murray last season on the other side. An inverted wing back is something that he has used in the past.
Yes, absolutely. I think you're spot on, and I didn't think of that yesterday with Khartoum at right wing back. I didn't make the connection with Armstrong and Matty Kennedy.
Yeah,
I think going forward, the important thing is Hearts will be flexible, and I think McInnes will want that flexibility. You've seen that when he was Aberdeen manager and when he was with Kilmarnock manager, to have different options. At the moment, if you look at this, the team and where the strongest parts are, he's not quite got the wingers at the moment, other than kind of key Reedus that's came in. So the strongest element of the team are the centre backs, because Hearts have got 5 or 6 very good centre backs. So that gives them an option to go back 3. But I do think as the squad evolves and he gets the players in that he wants, the wingers in that he wants, and the more the kind of more pace, width, and physicality in the final third, I think you'll see 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 be the predominant formation. But I think it's really good to have that back 3 as a backup, because it just allows you to be flexible in games, going into games, and you've got some really good centre backs. James Penrice can play very well as a wing back, but Greving's played as a wing back before, and then it'll be interesting to see if he does play at times with back 3, how he uses the wingers within that as well. So yeah, I think it just provides a wee bit of flexibility.
And how they attack set pieces, there's like monsters in the box, in the opposition box.
Sorry for just keep interrupting you, but yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when we were watching training, they were doing some after the small-sided games. Some guys went to do the set pieces and work with the new guys at Ross Grant, and looked across, and it was McCart, Finlay, Halkett, Steinbender, and Kent just in the box, just land the Giants, which is good.
That could be your back 4 at some point. Let's go to the second half. This is how it started. Ryan Fulton came in goals. Christian Borchgrevink was at right back. Harry Milne at left back. Frankie Kent was captain alongside Jamie McCart in the centre. It was a 4-4-2. Neuenhoff and McEntee were the central midfielders. Alan Forrest was on the right. Kieseridis was on the left. And up front, James Wilson started the half. He was the only player to start both halves. And Claudio Braga supported him in attack. Yeah, I don't think this was so much. I think there were a few players in this team that will maybe be playing back up when the season started, but I think there was a few in there as well that could very well be in the first lineup or the first couple of lineups of the season. Mm-hmm. Maybe Borchgrevink, maybe Kent, potentially, although as you've said, there's a lot of options there. Maybe McEntee, maybe Kieseridis, and Wilson started both halves, so he's obviously got a good chance of starting a game as well. But what did you make of the shape and the second half, Joe?
It was, the shape was a lot more kind of traditional, because it did take in the first half. It did take a while to figure out exactly where the position of, especially the position of Steinbender and Khartoum. The second half, I'll be honest, I wasn't really looking at it as from a kind of collective standpoint. I was, because of Kieran, McEntee Borkovic and Braga, I was more focused on how each of those players were performing. So second half, it was quite because of the changes in the heat, it was quite even second half. Hearts had St Mirren didn't really threaten, but only a free kick that Fulton tipped over the bar, which didn't give us a corner, and then Braga had the best chance of the game. So it wasn't the most exciting. So it was one of those where I was writing on my phone and looking at the 4 new boys, but there were certainly positives to be taken, especially if there was all 4 of the new boys we maybe don't know much about did something that made me go, right, okay, that's positive. I like the look of that. For example, Burkina, you talked to David Wellerston about it. Burkina talked about it. His crossing, and the first crossing opportunity he got to the byline, stood up brilliantly for Kiridis at the back post. And you're thinking, right, that's good. That's good delivery from wide areas. Claudio Braga, I think he's a player you're going to really like, Craig. I think he's really intelligent. He's quite fiery. He's got a bit about him, and he can use his body really well. He's finishing. It was decent effort. Keeper made a good save. He was kind of stretching for it, but yeah, I was encouraged by him. Kiridis is just going to be so exciting. He's going to need kind of maybe coached or managed through games in terms of like position defensively, but with the ball, he's so exciting. And then McEntee, just the epitome of big physical Hearts. Straight away, you notice there's a real size, real presence in the midfield, and I do believe that he'll be difficult for other teams to play against. They'll be frustrated by him. There'll be an interview we're going out with him tomorrow. He describes something about how he plays, which I think will will excite or encourage Hearts fans, and I do think he'll be a threat going forward as well, given the more he gets used to playing midfield consistently.
I think I know that Beningame and Devlin are 2 of Hearts' best players on their day. 2 of Hearts' best players last season. 2 of Hearts' best players, but I do think it's probably going to be McEntee and one other as the midfield 2 going into the start of the season. But yeah, a wee while to go until then. Just before we kind of wrap up, any other business, any comments you want to bring in or anything like that? I'm sorry, but there was just too many comments for me to keep track of when we got into this chat. So never mind, like keeping track of everything else and going through the comments. But what to say for the players who we haven't seen in any of those graphics? Now, I know 2 more got on, including Musa. But what does it say about the likes of Danda, Adam Forrester, perhaps, Musa, and maybe less so? It doesn't really say so much about the likes of Nielsen, Aidan Denham, Harry Stone. I think we can kind of put them in a different sort of bracket, and we know that the likes of Stephen Kingsley is injured as well. But what do you think it says anything for those that missed out?
So Forrester, Forrester, I think maybe circumstance, because they went with a back 3 in the first half and they tried to use a more attack-minded full back, like wing backs, and then went to the back 4 in the second half, and Borkovic was getting 45 minutes. I would maybe read more into that, see what the Crawley friendly brings. Moose, like again, I think it was Darren Ross talking about Wilson starting both games. Hopefully means he's still being considered strongly. He's strongly being considered for game time. Very much so. I think he'll be a really important part of this the team going forward, and it probably shows you where Wilson is and Musa is. The fact that Musa played 30 minutes, Wilson played 60 minutes, for example. I think you can read into that. For Danda, this is one where I apologise. There's been so much going on over the last 24 hours that we didn't really noticed that Danda wasn't there, but didn't really figure it. And then there was a lot going on after the game, so I didn't really get a chance to find out a bit more. So hopefully find out a bit more about Danda. But it's hard to, when you look at all the options and the guys coming in, it's hard to see a place for some guys, and you put Danda in that category. You put them together with like Khartoum and Blair Spittle. Blair Spittle played as a number 10, best kind of his best role when he was at Motherwell, and he looked really good. And I just think Blair Spittle probably is a more rounded player within what McInnes wants than Dan does.
Yeah, just maybe he's got a bit more streetwise about him as well, I think, Spittle. He's just got, I don't know, exactly how to describe what I'm saying, but he seems to have got like a sort of character that's suited to, I don't know, to the Scottish Premiership or to Heart, playing for Hearts a bit more than Danda. And I don't think that it's Danda that's. I don't think it's a lack of quality with Danda. I think he's been very unlucky. So I think circumstances have gone against him in his time that have been at Hearts. And I think he could be in for a similar thing here, because one of the things that Derek McInnes wants to do, we've mentioned it loads of times, we've mentioned it a few times even in this video, he wants to bring in physicality. That's one of the things that Danda lacks for all the quality he has. And something has to give somewhere. He can't just keep so many small players because they've got good quality. Something has to give somewhere. And yeah, you worry that Danda is maybe going to fall victim to one of those things, especially given that he's not featured in this game. Could just be that he's picked up a knock or something like that we don't know about as well. But yes, as we keep referring to, some players are going to have to go at some point. Joe, any other business or any other comments you want to bring up before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. Adam asks about what's next for Kenneth Vargas. Don't think he's been given some time off because he's been in the Gold Cup, so he'll be back later on this month. So find out a bit more about him then. But I mean, I think one of the guys was asking about certain players. What I would say is almost every player in that squad who was here last season is available. That's just the way the Hearts are operating now. That it's the case if they don't move them on, then if they don't get the offers they want, then they'll be part of the squad. But that's just the way that everyone's on the table. But that's not to say it's like, oh, they are actively moving people on, or they're hoping offers don't come in. That's just the way that Hearts will be operating, where if teams come in with a suitable offer that's either for a player that maybe is not going to feature too much, or an incredible offer for a player that will feature too much but is really good value, then you're likely going to see them leaving. But yes, other than that, no, that's me.
I feel like you are going to be able to go and enjoy and relax this evening, Joel. Are you? Because it feels like a dam's burst. It feels like the pressure's been building and building. It's like the humidity before a storm. It's just broke. The rain's come down, and now we can just relax. No, can we just have an evening off?
I don't know. Looking at Hearts this even just the past 5 weeks. No, from going from McInnes, Bloom Investment, and Budge Diamond down, Lawrence Shankland, new signings. We'll maybe go for until go to once August. The window shuts at the end of August or starts September.
Roll on the first international break. Already looking forward to the first international break. Right, Joe, thank you very much. Please hope you do get to relax and enjoy your evening a bit tonight. Thanks everybody for joining in. Thanks especially for everybody's patience and waiting for us to get online in the first place. You can find everything that we've been talking about at Heart and more at heartstandard.co.uk. I've linked some articles in the description. I'll now need to go update that because those are outdated. Those are from the previous video that we were going to do before we came on air. But yes, Lawrence Shankland is back. We will see you all soon.